Two-star.
Good morning again, Rob. Great morning.
New York Times bestseller author John Yilstrand.
Good morning.
The senior member of our crew, Michael Garrell.
Good to be with you.
He is in the Larry Schultz seat, John Doyle.
Well, good morning, and I'm glad to be here, too.
And via telephone, Joseph Joey Toots Ferretti.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Joe, how's the weather in Georgia this morning?
It's hot. Heat index is 105 yesterday. It is boiling down here.
Yesterday afternoon, I had to move my car from the sidewalk to the garage, and I went in, and it said 100 on the dashboard there on the temperature readout. 100. Triple digits, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you should get something for that, don't you think? Which is a reminder.
You are getting something for it.
Right? You survive 100 degrees, they should give you something. Don't leave your pets in your car on a day like this or any day when it gets warm, because that's very detrimental to the long-term health of your pet, even potentially costing
That's
your pet
short-term
life.
health. That's that. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. The dog may survive, but there could be detrimental organ ill effects of that as well for your pet.
And
Obviously, don't leave your children in the car.
I was going to say, needless to say, yeah.
Yeah, needless to say. Gentlemen, are we ready for the week in review?
And we go a little something like this.
Everybody didn't say yes, so I'm going to assume that's implied.
Yes.
All right, in advance, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody listening, watching, present in the room, you're going to be offended by this right now. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be offended.
But it's his show, folks.
So if you are, or you're sensitive to being offended, don't go away. Toughen yourself up. But remember, the more times you're offended, the tougher you get about it. That's my warning.
Philosophy for the day.
Sounds like a coach to me.
Jackson Browne once sang, "I've been aware of the time going by. They say in the end it's the wink of an eye." These lyrics are from a song called The Pretender. But the way this week has gone, I'd like to return to sender. When last week we got together, the Olympics were about to steal the scenes and began a week full of controversy with a Last Supper salute to drag queens. I'm not sure how they got all those drag queens to create a conservative bummer. Then I remembered, they're not in the classroom reading to children because it's summer. I just wait for Joe to giggle. It's just a death everywhere else. And just when you thought that the USA women gymnasts gave us all smiles, led by their most decorated goat, the incomparable Simone Biles, reality came stowing back with the strength that it beckons when Italian boxer Angela Carini quit her fight in 46 seconds. She'd been slugged by a boxer who'd previously failed a gender eligibility test, and as a result, she voluntarily ended her gold medal quest. Do we really want biological males boxing women in the ring? Because when it comes to violence against women, here's the thing. If you hit a woman in your home, the cops arrest you with speed that's incredible. But if you do it well enough at the Olympics, you get a gold medal? Well, the governor has certainly had a week to digest, with a lawsuit about a mural putting his love for Baby Dog to the test. And if you think the first mural made his week one to remember, there's still 4 more coming by the month of November. If I said these murals were his biggest issue, I'd be a liar, because all that's been topped by the auction listing of the Greenbrier. This little slice of history is getting the wrong kind of exposure. It's already known for congressional bunkers, and now for foreclosure. But fret not. You can now own this slice of almost heaven, as it goes to the highest bidder at 2 p.m. sharp on August 27. And while the state debates a tax cut of 4 or 9%, it faces a child welfare system lawsuit over not enough money spent. The plaintiffs are awaiting their day they hope comes soon in court, claiming the state is cherry-picking facts to improve their report. And speaking of bad weeks, here comes Donald Trump, who appeared at the NABJ hoping to get a black voter bump. Trump rolled 7 days of bad press into 34 minutes of interviewed strain that was so bad it was cut short by his own campaign. He managed to offend so many cultures by chance that you probably noticed people stop talking about J.D. Vance. Whomever came up with this idea couldn't have thought too long. I mean, let's put Trump in a room with a mostly black audience. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know who was in charge of getting the Donald hired, but I do know if that person was on the Donald's old TV show, he'd tell him, "You're fired." Who's left that's not offended out there today? Did I forget anybody?
And while we're even here, Rob, you've got it covered, every aspect of it. So we might as well go home and drink a coffee.
Anybody? Is anybody out there not offended? Did I forget anybody at all?
Well done.
Yes, quite well done.
The leadoff hitter to our program, as always, Mr. Joseph Joey Toots Ferretti.
I'm enjoying my role as the Ed McMahon of the Friday show. All I have to do is laugh out loud.
And I appreciate it too, Joe.
Rob, 45 years ago, as the Ayatollahs were consolidating power in Iran, despite the best efforts of our CIA, they took over 400 U.S. hostages. Now, the legend is that the election of Ronald Reagan resulted in those hostages being freed, and that all he had to do was cast a stern look to the east, and the Ayatollahs would cower and release the American hostages on Inauguration Day. Now, we learned subsequently, though, through very good investigative reporting, that the Carter administration had actually been negotiating the release of those hostages for a year. And in fact, at the end result, concessions were paid. Sanctions were lifted. Iranian cases that were in U.S. courts were dismissed. And there was a deal cut to get those hostages free. I was reminded about that here yesterday with the reporting that there was a major prisoner swap. And I was interested in the background of this prisoner swap because, as is usual, there was politics involved. I watched some of the reporting on CNN, and, of course, it was hailed as a great day. And then I turned over to Fox, and while they were also gleeful at the fact that Americans were coming home, they walked that fine line by also reporting that how terrible it was that prisoners in our country, these Russian thugs, were being released back to Russia. So it prompts the question, what price to pay for a release of hostages, given that it is now almost a customary practice for countries like China, Iran, Russia, and other bad actors to take American hostages and European hostages in the hopes that they could bargain for the release of some of their people down the road. We know that's a risk that's out there, yet it is something that we're going to have to deal with here in the future. So the question for this morning's panel is, what price to pay to bring these hostages home? Are you satisfied that we have to cut deals and we have to release nefarious characters from our own prisons to get our Americans home, or do you think that price is too high?
Bill, I'm going to go straight to you on this one first.
Yeah, there's no good answer to this, Joe. There's been hostages held for ransom for hundreds of years. We have a lot of it in Renaissance. Hear a lot of it in the even going back to Roman time. That was a common practice. So it's nothing new. The government is very cautious about the possibility, and they have certain countries on do not travel. Russia happens to be one of those countries. And yet people tend to travel. A lot of them, they travel in tour groups. Some countries, such as Egypt, has taken, after the terrorist activities back, maybe 15 so years or so ago in Egypt, Egypt accompanies most all tour groups. So you have armed guards everywhere you go as part of a tour group. Now, individual travelers, you're more or less on your own. So I'm not sure... once it gets to the stage of where you're hostage, how much fault resides with the country, or how much, the U.S., or how much fault resides with the individuals that feel that it will never happen to them. I'd like to look at this from a different perspective, though, and I'd like to look at it from a political perspective. There's been a lot in this campaign talking about allies. The benefits of allies came into play with this hostage exchange. Germany, who did not want to release one of these assassins, terrorists, was convinced to do so on a personal basis, personal friendship of being a close ally with President Biden. The other thing was the role that there's some criticism against Vice President Harris. What has she done on the national scale? Evidently, she was the one that started this most recent ball rolling at a international security conference. So she started getting people on board, and then just kind of took shape from there. To answer your question, Joe, what as a U.S. can we do? I'm not sure we can do a lot more than what we have been doing. And do we want to try to free those folks that's in captivity? There's an old saying in the military, you don't leave one of your own behind. And in effect, this is a corollary to that.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I agree strangely with a lot of what Bill said.
No, you don't. You agree with
Strangely?
me on Thursday.
But I would maybe be a little more pointed. I agree that giving up the bad guys to get your people back is an okay thing to do, and regardless of the political party that's overseeing it, I do question the facts about Kamala Harris's deep involvement in this, but that's a separate story.
That's Stubblefield on that Kamala Harris campaign team again,
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah.
What are you going to do?
No, I was just evidently we give credit and we give criticism. Supposedly, in this case, she does deserve.
Well, that's your supposal. but my point is that the long-term reaction to this ought to be to threaten and actually implement a barrier or refusal to deal with these countries, or to enable, in other words, to eliminate our interaction with them altogether, other than through the threat of military force, and have no traveling, and prohibit traveling to these other countries, the ones that seize people.
And then if you do get seized when you visit a prohibited country, you're on your own, basically?
Yeah, that would be the incentive not to travel there.
Mr. Doyle.
I agree with Mike, Carl, that we should strongly advise Americans not to visit certain countries. And President Biden said that yesterday afternoon, when he first announced this, because he was asked that question. Bill Stubblefield is correct about history. For heaven's sake, back during the Crusades, Richard the Lionheart was coming back from the Crusades, and some count had him captured, and the Brits paid off the guy to get Richard the Lionheart out. The Israelis, they make no bones about it. They'll trade, I think at one point they traded a couple of hundred people for one corporal. It's just you really can't resist it. And I'm going back to Bill Whalen. I've been focusing particularly on him. When he was captured 6 years ago, that was really when it became obvious that Vladimir Putin had made this part of his foreign policy. So when he was captured, most people weren't aware of how dangerous it was to go to Russia. Now I hope they are, because, again, this has become part of Vladimir Putin's foreign policy, is simply nab Americans whenever he can and hold them for hostage to get some of his thugs out that the West has captured. So, it is truly a dilemma, and I think the only advice is Americans, stay away if you possibly can. Now, this, of course, ignores the situation with Gershkovich, who was sent to Russia by his employer, the Wall Street Journal, to do legitimate reporting. I don't know what you do about that.
Mr. Gilstrap.
It's a mess. I'm not going to do anything but celebrate the reunion of people with their families after they've been taken illegitimately. So at the personal level, I think this is a celebration, and we shouldn't do anything to get in the way of the celebration. Now, taking a step back at the political level, even before I get to politics, kidnapping is an industry with the cartels.
It's there are line items with American industries along the border that actually plan on paying the ransoms for the kidnappings that happen on a fairly routine basis from executives from various companies that are kidnapped, and then you pay. And the way it works is that as long as you pay the ransom, you get the release. It's kind of a guaranteed thing. So there's not a lot of danger involved unless you don't pay the ransom. So there is a robust kidnapping industry that exists in the world, and it's going to continue. At the political level, if you kidnap an American diplomat, an American soldier, somebody who's actually representing the American flag, I think the price needs to be so awesome and violent and terrible that the world needs to reconsider that. I don't know if it's an apocryphal story or not. It's a part of history that I haven't studied. I'm not really all that interested in it, but supposedly a Roman citizen could walk with impunity throughout the world because anyone who touched a Roman soldier could be guaranteed obliteration, that the Roman Empire would stick up for them. I don't know why we don't protect our people that way. I think that the state, if somebody kidnaps a vacationer, whether it's in Mexico or if not in a no-fly place. If you're going to go vacationing in Afghanistan, you're sort of taking this on yourself, right?
The beaches are very attractive.
I'm sure they are, but if you go to the State Department, there are sites that are listed as do not travel. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you can't get there. So there is a level of personal responsibility. But when people are doing legitimate business, like Evan Gershkovich, and he's taken prisoner. There's, again, not taking away the wonderful nature that he's been reunited, but we traded an assassin for a reporter, which really encourages Putin to kidnap more reporters, mm-hmm. to get more spies and more murderers. And it also means that, well, okay, let's send more assassins to the United States or to Germany or to any NATO country, because we can get them back if we just take another reporter.
We don't have the power over the world that the Roman Empire did at its heyday. And secondly, the Roman Empire didn't have to deal with nuclear weapons in the hands of the Scots or some of the other folks on the fringes of the empire. So that, I think, is a major difference.
But that catapult could reach a lot of people. When they brought that catapult out, and the pouring of the tar, that's hot oil, and
how far could that catapult launch a boulder?
Back in the day, pretty far.
The nuclear argument is a red herring. Nobody's going to go nuclear on this. You send in a SEAL team or a Delta team to take out a guy. Nobody's going to respond with nukes. That just destroys the world.
I'll take your word for it.
Nobody's going to destroy the world over this over one of these.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, then, how about the tactic of the United States to start kidnapping more Russian people?
That's not what we do.
It is, kind of.
Well,
we could do it.
I'm not in
do all
charge.
sorts of things.
Okay, I'm not in charge, so
we could do all sorts of things.
Well, we do have history of kidnapping some folks that have plotted or worked against us.
CIA has a checkered past.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, they're only bad people.
And then there's the whole idea of we can assume the reporter isn't a spy. We can assume Brittany Griner probably wasn't a spy, but I've known people that worked for the CIA back in the days of the Iron Curtain, and they had people behind the Iron Curtain who were there under the guise of having a legitimate job, but were actually spies. So.
Cultural attaché.
Not everybody has been.
In fact, Smithsonian was the front for a lot of our CIA activities.
So, but I can assume that the reporter is not a spy. That's probably true.
But then this the school teacher, Fogel, I think, who had less than a half a pound of medicinal marijuana on him, and so he's not part of the swap group.
Yeah, and Brittany Griner ran into that as well, right? But when you are going to these countries, you got to know better. You just have to.
Well, I think everybody knows better now
We've known it for a long time, John. We've known it for a long time. This is not a new phenomenon.
No, the government has. The CIA, I'm not sure the general public was aware of it until Brittany Griner.
Well, you remember Bush 43 pointed out that Putin was not our friend, and he was lambasted by the mainstream media for not understanding the fact that the Iron Curtain had fallen, communism was dead, and Putin was on our side now. Bush 43 pointed this out a long time ago.
But the majority of knowledgeable travelers, first thing they do is go to the Secretary of State do not travel list. And they go on their own peril. They know that there is warning or strong urging not to go to the country. Bonnie and I traveled in northern Mexico a couple of years or so ago, and a part of the Mexico that is has a lot of terrorist activities. We were basically told, if you go, take phenomenal precaution.
No, but Bill, you're absolutely right. I go back to Brittany Griner, though. She was hired by a Russian basketball team.
Correct.
To play in Russia. And I can see her thinking, oh, they're not going to go after me. You know, they want the crowds. But as it turns out, Putin didn't care about Russian women's basketball, even though it was very, very popular, and they liked having the American players because they were better than their own players. Oh, yeah, like I said, I think the public is a lot more aware now than it was a couple of years ago.
In Putin's defense, Caitlin Clark hadn't come along yet. Now let's move along back to you, Joe Ferretti, to wrap it up.
Well, this kind of hit home for me because my brother traveled to Moscow on a couple of occasions around the time that Paul Whelan was taken hostage. My brother traveled to Moscow, and he told me how his laptop would be taken from him at the airport, and the Russians would look it over. And I mean, that easily could have been him that was put behind bars. And I just wondered about what our country would have done to get him out. And the bottom line here is there's a cost to all this, of course. Not having these journalists go to these countries, there's a cost associated with that, because oftentimes not only do we get edification, we get educated about what's going on in these countries, the people that live in those countries, they get a lot of their news from foreign or international correspondents over the internet. That's how those people get news, instead of the government-fed news that they are so often subjected to. So there's a real cost to not having these folks on the ground in those countries. But it's clear that there's going to have to be more discretion about what countries people like the Wall Street Journal send their employees to, what State Department people go, where they go across the globe. There's going to have to be more scrutiny about that. But the bottom line is, I think the precedent has been set that we're unfortunately going to have to deal by releasing thugs and people who are international arms dealers like Victor Boot to get our people out. It's just a precedent that's been set, and it's going to be followed, I fear, in the future.
Joe, good job as the leadoff hitter as always. You probably get tired of hearing that, but once again, you started off the show with some good momentum there. Nice stuff. Good job.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome, Joe.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to tell Joe nice job?
Way to go, Joe.
Anybody else chip in?
Thanks for not going with the NCAA thing.
Yeah, I thought of you, John.
This segment of the program brought to you in part by the Berkeley County Health Department's Quick Response Team, by Hagerstown Ford. They'll bring the car to you when you buy it. Also bring service to you now as well. You don't have to leave your home. Also by Elder Care Attorney Danny Staggers in Martinsburg at 304-267-3915. By WVU Medicine, Berkeley Medical Center, Jefferson Medical Center. And by the Berkeley County Health Department, the free radon test kits. Admiral, you are on the clock with issue number 2. Next, this is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg and TV10.
When this battle is over, we'll wear the crown. When this battle
If you or someone you know suffers from the disease of addiction, help is available from the Berkeley County Quick Response Team with peer recovery coaches and support promptly to the homes of those who've recently experienced an overdose. This collective effort towards recovery brings resources and services to the community, including naloxone and treatment options. Call 304-267-1313 or visit the Berkeley County Recovery Resource Center at 800 Emmett Rouse Drive, Martinsburg. The Berkeley County Quick Response Team is funded through a DHHR grant with the Berkeley-Morgan County Health Department.
Still undecided about where to enroll your child in the upcoming school year?
Here at Airborne Christian Academy, we are soaring into our third year of educating students pre-K through 12. And with West Virginia Hope Scholarship, Christian education has never been more affordable.
And great news, we are still accepting applications for this fall. We want to partner with you in raising a generation who remains true to their faith.
Space is limited, so apply at airborne.school. That's airborne.school.
The Berkeley County Youth Fair, a summer tradition that everyone looks forward to. Carnival rides, bull riding, truck pulls, and demo derbies. Your favorite fair food. Come support the area youth at livestock competitions and see all of their hard work. Follow us on Facebook or check us out online for the complete 2024 fair schedule. It's the Berkeley County Youth Fair, 8 action-packed days of fun for the whole family, August 3rd through the 10th.
Panhandle Printing and Design is your full-service local print shop.
With over 50 years of combined experience, we know how to handle all of your printing and design needs.
We can handle anything, from small business cards to wrapping large vehicles. Our in-house design team can do it all. As a staple of this community, we love helping people promote their events, businesses, and anything they're passionate about. Envision, create, and bring your ideas to life with Panhandle Printing and Design.
Welcome to Golden Asian Buffet. This month's special, the Cajun Seafood Boil. For just $16.99, you get some of the most amazing, freshest seafood with all those incredible Cajun flavors you know and love. Crab legs, shrimp, mussels, corn on the cob, and much, much more. All with those incredible Cajun flavors, all for $16.99. Golden Asian Buffet is the place to be for some incredible food. Don't miss out on the June special, the Cajun Seafood Boil.
Is your skin dry or breaking out? Are your muscles sore and tight? Then take a few hours or even a whole day to refresh yourself, recover, and rejuvenate at Personal Reflection Day Spa, located at 102 Hovatter Drive in Inwood. Personal Reflection Day Spa is an award-winning spa for 15 consecutive years. The friendly, experienced staff will give you the treatment you deserve from the minute you walk in the door. Book your appointment by calling 304-821-1333 or online at personalreflectiondayspa.com.
Hi, this is Larry DeMarco. I'm with Century 21 Modern Realty Results. Macy Folk and I have a new listing here at 614 South Queen Street. We'd love to give you a tour.
This charming stone home is turnkey ready. It has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a fenced-in backyard, stone fireplace, new HVAC, stainless steel appliances, hardwood floors on the first 2 levels, and luxury vinyl flooring on the 3rd and 4th levels. There's plenty of room for a growing family with 2,008 square feet of living space. The home is located within walking distance to Martinsburg High School at 614 South Queen Street. Stop inside to discover a fully renovated interior that exudes elegance and charm by calling Macy Folk at 304-676-5050 or by emailing her at macyfolk1@gmail.com. The Larry DeMarco team at Century 21 Modern Realty Results is located at 804 North Queen Street in Martinsburg.
John's Pool Supplies, your local one-stop shop for all of your swimming pool needs. Located at 237 Eagle School Road, John's Pool Supplies has over 30 years of experience and a large selection of products, services, and supplies for your pool or hot tub. From custom liner installation and pool inspections to free water testing, call John's Pool Supplies at 304-267-2000 or go to johnspoolsupplies.com.
From breathtaking outdoors to unique local eats, world-class geocaching, and thriving local culture, Martinsburg, Berkeley County, West Virginia is where you can live your adventure. Berkeley County offers fantastic outdoor experiences, from our rugged hiking paths to scenic nature paths, public parks, fishing streams, and nature preserves. Cap off your outdoor adventures with a stroll through historic downtown Martinsburg. Join us and immerse yourself in our rich local history and scenic surroundings. Check out upcoming events and plan your adventure at travelwv.com.
Is your skin dry or breaking out? Are your muscles sore and tight? Then take a few hours or even a whole day to refresh yourself, recover, and rejuvenate at Personal Reflection Day Spa, located at 102 Hovatter Drive in Inwood. Personal Reflection Day Spa is an award-winning spa for 15 consecutive years. The friendly, experienced staff will give you the treatment you deserve from the minute you walk in the door. Book your appointment by calling 304-821-1333 or online at personalreflectiondayspa.com.
Car accident? Get more with Mansion Ferretti. After a car accident, what does it mean when we say get more with Mansion Ferretti?
It means making the insurance company do what's right.
It means getting a powerful local law firm on your side, one with decades of experience.
And it means the peace of mind of never paying us a fee unless we get money for you. So if you've been injured,
get more with Mansion Ferretti. 304-264-8505.
Here you go, John. Hand him here. I'm here to help.
I know.
John got his ears all twisted up there.
That was Doyle, not Gilstrap, just for the for the record.
He just sits up there in his high chair,
looking down on the rest
exactly.
of us.
Yeah. The condescension just drips from his sleeves. Bill got up to shake his hand. He said, "Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Right, yeah.
I am not to be touched. You can talk to me, but don't touch me."
I'm not even going to look at you. I'm going to look over you.
It's bad enough I have to be in this room with you people.
Well, the people who are you don't really have the perspective if you're watching, but in all fairness, the top of Bill's head is like here.
It's like armpit level.
So yeah. It's
by choice, John. You took the high chair of the group.
Well, yes, because I can. It's a better TV angle. Okay, it's vanity.
Because I can.
Right. And you're thinking about the viewing, the radio audience.
No, I'm thinking about vanity.
I just that statement in and of itself just says everything. I took the higher chair because I can.
I suspect that may become an introduction somewhere down the line.
Yeah. We are produced by Chillin, Dylan Bishop, who will again do fact checking as this hour continues along.
But selectively.
So everybody, Bill's lobbying for selective fact checking. And we are produced by Chillin, Dylan Bishop today, and brought to you in part by the Mansion Ferretti Law Offices. Get more with Mansion Ferretti. Joe, take it from here.
Rob, we are located at 201 East John Street now in downtown Martinsburg, where we provide counsel to people seeking information regarding motor vehicle accidents, insurance claims, and the like. You can contact us at 304-264-8505.
Well done, sir. Joe Ferretti by phone. Mr. John Gilstrap high atop the mountain of the studio. Mr. John Doyle. Mr. Michael Carl, and in a moment, the Admiral. We are also brought to you in part by CMA Honda. I am at 359,999 miles on the CRV, just in time to roll 360 as I avoid the box turtle crossing in the long driveway on the way out to Eagle School Road and the way home in a few hours.
Don't hit a box turtle.
Never would, never have, never will.
I have, but it was accidental, and I watched very carefully.
You hit a box turtle?
I did once, yeah.
On purpose?
No, absolutely not. Not on purpose.
Did it anger you?
Yes, it hurt me.
Dylan, would you check that, please?
I have many times I've stopped my car to get out.
Show us Bill's mugshot, Dylan. Would you please show us his? Let's get that mugshot up on the screen. And if you don't have one, make one. How about that, Joe?
Let's go to issues, Rob.
Bill, the guy who lectured you on water use, is killing turtles out there.
Be careful, Joe. Be careful. I need help.
With issue number 2, here is Mr. Two-Star, Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, Rob, as I think our audience realizes, for our issues of the day, we try to be provocative and something that would engender a lot of discussion. And the more provocative, the more discussion. I'm not sure that my issue today will meet those standards.
All right, on to issue number 3. Let's go to John.
But at least
I was waiting for that.
Okay. Yeah. In our world today, approximately 1 1/3 are hardcore to the left, 1/3 hardcore to the right, and then there's a third in the middle. The ones that's the third on each end of the political spectrum is where a lot of the campaign rhetoric is directed, focused toward. We've had words such as deplorables, childless cat lady, radical left, and the like. So that's just kind of flows off the tongue rather. This couple so weeks ago, a new term was introduced, and that was weird, and it was introduced by the Harris campaign, and I think it caught the Trump campaign off guard. They did not really know how to respond to it. In fact, what they did was turn around and start using the term weird for their campaign against the Harris campaign. I looked at this initially as a question. Why was it effective? Weird means something like strange, unusual, different from the norm. Creepy. But it's not nasty, nor is it demeaning. Why is it so effective? And I guess my question to my colleagues is weird perhaps the most effective campaign slogan that we've heard in recent times?
Yes or no answers are not welcome in this
That's
segment.
exactly right, yes.
Elaborate on your response. Mr. Ferretti, go first, please.
Well, yeah, I don't know, Bill. It's a strange term to use, but if you look at it, it could be something strategic in that it's hard to assail that kind of definition being applied to political thinking or political positions. So in that sense, I think it's successful. I don't know if it has staying power going forward. We've got over 90 days left in the campaign. I don't know if 45 days from now we're going to still be talking about weird policies. But I think that the fact that it's hard to address is, and it's kind of out in left field, is perhaps the genius of it. So in that regard, I think it's been successful. But I think as we go forward here, we're going to get both sides drilling down more deeply into some of the more policy-oriented discussions rather than the labels that are being attached. And I hope we go there because I don't know if labeling does a whole lot for the voting public.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Convicted felon didn't move the needle. Racist didn't move the needle. End of democracy didn't move the needle. I don't know that weird is really gonna do much. I've sort of been living my life in a little sleeve of weirdness these last 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks. Hold that high chair.
I don't. Weird is. No, I don't think it's a campaign slogan. I'm not even sure it's an insult. I'm in the entertainment business, for God's sake. Weird is, we embrace weird. I don't think it's a net negative. It's just kind of a weird term.
Well, John, would you go as far as to say that Bill's premise is ludicrous?
I would never insult someone I respected with a word like that.
By saying what they just said was ludicrous?
It flowed off the tongue so easily, John.
I'm done.
Inside joke from last week, so I guess. Mr. Carl.
Well, I think it has a slight negative, feel to it, but it's ambiguous, and I think it calls on the user of it to get specific about what's weird, about what's weird about their opponent or their opponent's policies, and if it demands an explanation of specificity, and if you just say weird, you're just and that's all you say. You're admitting that you don't have an argument.
Mr. Doyle?
Well, my definition of weird is odd. Now,
your definition is odd, or the word weird means odd?
Yeah, my definition of the word weird is odd.
Well, what would it be then?
Unusual.
Oh, who's on first?
Who's on second? Exactly.
Thank you, John.
Unusual.
You got to explain it.
Yeah, goofy. I mean, but at any rate, but that's just mine. And this wasn't something that was poll tested by the Harris campaign before they ran it out.
You don't think?
No.
Oh, come on.
No.
There are no accidents like that.
There's no
Yes,
Venn
there
diagram for this one?
I don't understand Venn diagrams, so forget that. Tim Walz just came out with it when he was being interviewed, and I think he was talking about Vance, and he said something like, "This guy's just weird," and the campaign just picked it up. This was generated organically,
Right, but I think they then probably tested the word and found out that it stuck.
I don't think they tested it. I just think they thought this sounds kind of cool. Let's go with it. They didn't have time to poll test it. I mean, he only came out with it about 5 or 6 days ago. This didn't happen right after Biden announced he wasn't running. It was just in an interview, and it was that word that propelled Tim Walz into the top rank of people being considered for the vice presidential nomination. Were it not for that, he wouldn't be anywhere near the top rank. So it's I don't know. It's a word that I have never used. I just don't. I mean, very often if I think something is odd, I'll say, "Oh, that's odd," to myself. But that's the word that comes closest to me.
You know, I think selecting a vice president based on a word that he organically uttered is in and of itself weird.
It may be, and that may be one of the reasons that he eventually isn't selected. Incidentally, I'll interject, as a supporter of Kamala Harris for president, I strongly hope that she selects Mark Kelly because as her vice presidential nominee, simply because these other folks, I think Tim Walz is in this category, Shapiro is, Cooper was before he took himself out. They're all prosecutors, which is why Harris knows them well. They were all attorneys general when she was attorney general of California. I think a ticket of a prosecutor and a decorated soldier, highly decorated soldier, has more oomph than a ticket of 2 prosecutors. If you pick another prosecutor, you're just doubling down on your own strength. So this is why I advocate for Mark Kelly.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, this discussion has actually been more than I was dreading. I thought it was going to fall flat on its face, and people say yes and no and let it go with that. I do think.
Well, I took that out as a possibility early on.
And I appreciate that. Yeah. I do think it has more sticking power than what John Gilstrap may suggest. For one thing, it's not over the top. Like a lot of the descriptors that we use, that people immediately have a reaction to it. This one is a term that a lot of us have used in the past with our colleagues or our family members, whoever the case may be. Weird is something that is not totally unfamiliar with us, but it's something that you have to think about in context of how it's been used in a political sense. That will give, I think, voters pause more so than a word such as deplorable. And so I think it may have more of an impact. But again, my initial going into this was I had a question about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I became intrigued why they chose that particular word.
What you got for us, Jill and Dylan?
Just going off of what John Doyle just talked about, I thought an interesting tidbit that I saw, I believe last week, was the last time that the Democratic presidential ticket did not include 2 lawyers as president and vice president was 1980. The only exception in there is Al Gore, who dropped out of law school to run for his father's vacated seat in Congress.
Nobody likes a quitter. Look, nobody wants to be called weird, right? Weird, like goofy's one thing. You know, weird is another. Weird has a connotation of kind of strange and creepy, and nobody wants to be labeled with that.
But the response to being called weird is say, what's weird about a strong economy and great national security and and safe streets and a solid border?
It would be one way to respond,
and that's the way to respond to it, and force the weird user to explain the substance and the basis of their contention.
All right, issue number 3 goes to John Gilstrap.
All right.
A weird comment coming up, I'm sure.
Some weird activity. We all remember the events of 9/11, right? It's a horrible day in American history, and we're now faced with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his cohorts. I have them right here: Walid bin Attash and Mustafa al-Hawsawi. If they plead guilty to the murder of 2,976 people, they get to serve life in prison without the chance of the death penalty. And they must serve it at Guantanamo. And I will tell you, I have visited the Joint Task Force prison at Guantanamo. It is a lovely place, as prisons go. It is climate controlled. The only MRI on the island, on the American part of the Guantanamo military base, the only MRI is at the Joint Task Force prison. Any civilians, it's an accompanied tour, any civilian who needs an MRI has to wait till Thursday to take the plane to go back to the United States to get their MRI done in the United States. They can't use the one that's on the island. The most requested item from the prisoners at the Joint Task Force, the thing they complain about most is not the most recent video games and porn. So this is, after killing almost 3,000 people, we've allowed them to take the death penalty off the table in order to plead guilty for the 3,000 murders. I cannot imagine a clearer example for the death penalty. We killed Timothy McVeigh. We killed the DC sniper. We executed the DC sniper for killing far fewer than that. How can we possibly explain this plea?
Mr. Doyle?
What else would we do is my question.
Try them and execute them.
Okay. It's been 20 years. They've been trying to figure out how to try them, and they haven't been able to figure out how to do it yet. My guess is if they did not offer this plea deal and it were not accepted, we'd go another 20 years with them sitting in Guantanamo waiting for their trial.
How's that different?
It isn't. That's my point. I mean, I'm not saying this is what should have been done. I have heard a number of the families who have said, you know, at least we'll get closure. There'll be a guilty verdict, and they're never going to go free again. So this is a kind of dilemma that prosecutors face all the time with all kinds of cases. Do you guarantee a conviction by getting a guilty plea, or do you go to trial and run the risk that maybe there's one juror that says, I'm not voting to convict? I just don't know.
Well, it would have been a military tribunal, not a...
Yeah, but there have been military tribunals that have said, you know what? Prosecution didn't prove the case. Now, clearly in this case, they would have been able to, but my point is you never know what might happen. And defendants can delay, particularly if they've got really good lawyers. They've been able to delay for 20 years. I suspect these lawyers might be capable of delaying quite a few more years.
Mr. Carl.
Well, as a lawyer, the only uncertainty is the conviction. And in other words, whether he just sits there and they don't have a plea for the rest of his life in prison, in this nice prison, or he takes a guilty plea and does the same thing. So I think absolutely the government needs to press forward with the trial and seek a conviction, and when they get it, execute the guy. If there's a hung jury or something, we're going to go back. That is not the end of the exposure. That you just start over, and you keep doing it, and that's what I think should happen.
Mr. Ferretti.
At the beginning of the movie Zero Dark 30, there's a scene of an individual at Guantanamo Bay being waterboarded. And information that was obtained during that interrogation in part led to us killing Osama bin Laden. However, it points out a problem. I've read up on why these three individuals and others have been held in Guantanamo for over 20 years and through 4 presidential administrations. There's real problems in proceeding with a trial. Number one, the courtroom is behind 2-inch glass, and the proceedings inside that contained courtroom involve a 45-second delay. So people on the outside who are hearing things from inside that courtroom, they get it in 45-second delays because of the fear that classified information may be uttered during the proceedings in that courtroom. That's a problem. Secondly, the military commission that was put together in the Bush administration to detain and ultimately try these individuals was made out of whole cloth. We had never done anything like this before. So every little nuance of that commission and how trials are to be conducted are challenged, and there's no precedent for that. So the defense lawyers in this case are doing their job by attacking the process at every step. And it's just been endless hearings to try to sort out how a trial can actually be conducted. Thirdly, the evidence in this case, a lot of it was obtained through torture, through memos that were written by Alberto Gonzales, the Attorney General for President Bush. A lot of that is problematic because the attorneys are going to expose in the attacking of that evidence and the admissibility of that evidence whether or not it should ever see the light of day because of the way it was obtained. So there are some real impediments to going forward with the trial. I'm like any other American. I'd love to see these guys tried and executed, but the devil's in the details. And in this case, I think the government has finally made a decision. Let's get a plea and let's move on because it's just too problematic to put these guys to trial. It's a value judgment that they made. I don't know if I don't know enough to say that it's the correct judgment, but that's the underlying concerns that the government has in having these guys been detained so long and the prospect of having to try them.
Interesting points to ponder, Joe. Bill.
Yeah, my research showed exactly the same thing that Joe's mentioned. That when he was first captured, I think he was in Pakistan. He is a Pakistani citizen. They did waterboard him. They did torture him. He's made a signed statement of his guilt resulting from the torture. The question is, can those words be used against him? Joe's exactly right that they have that they've been going on for something like 20 years trying to see if they could, in fact, trial and put him and find him guilty, because the waterboarding and the other torture runs against the International Code of Conduct of 1939, I think again 1989, something like that. So we'd be running the face of international standards. So it's not quite as simple as what our emotions would like to do. I think you ask 99% of the people in this country, would they want to see him put to death? I think you'd have 99% of the people saying yes, yes, yes. So that's not the issue. The issue is, can it satisfy the legal standards? And that's what has been delaying put into trial for these 20-something years, and this is what's giving the lawyers some pause right now, or giving the Department of Justice some pause of how to go forward because of the international.
John, 30 seconds before John Gilstrap wraps it up.
To Mike Carl, Mike, you're right. I had not considered that it would be a military tribunal that would consider this. I suspect they would find him guilty. But I do think there's a legitimate chance that that military tribunal, having found him guilty, would have said life imprisonment.
Mr. Gilstrap, to wrap it up.
This gives settlement to the bad guys too. If we're not going to execute them, to have them in this constant state of stress that this might be their end, that's an additional layer of punishment that I'm happy with too. If they can't actually be executed, let them worry about ultimately being executed. This, by letting them know that they're going to die in relative comfort with life imprisonment, that gives them a sense of pause and rest that they haven't earned.
And on that note, we take our 9 o'clock halftime break. When we come back, Mr. Doyle is on the clock. And this segment of our show today brought to you in part by the Manchin Ferretti Law Firm, CMA Honda, by Orsini's Home Store, not just an appliance store any longer. Also by the Skinner Accident and Injury Attorneys and Century 21 Modern Realty Results. It is the birthday of Andrew Gold, born this day in 1951. Supplied that Golden Girls theme you're hearing behind us now.
My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And if you threw a party.
Welcome to CMA's Honda of Winchester, where you can drive an award-winning lineup of new and certified pre-owned Hondas, Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and more at CMA's Honda of Winchester. Owners just care more. Welcome to CMA's Honda of Winchester, where you can drive an award-winning lineup of new and certified pre-owned Hondas, Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and more at CMA's Honda of Winchester. Owners just care more.
The Berkeley County Youth Fair, a summer tradition that everyone looks forward to. Carnival rides, bull riding, truck pulls, and demo derbies. Your favorite fair food. Come support the area youth at livestock competitions and see all of their hard work. Follow us on Facebook or check us out online for the complete 2024 fair schedule. It's the Berkeley County Youth Fair, 8 action-packed days of fun for the whole family, August 3rd through the 10th.
When you're looking for the perfect gift, look no further than L.A. Roberts Jewelers at 146 North Queen Street in downtown Martinsburg. Choose from a huge selection of unique items, from the finest diamonds that make your eyes sparkle to exquisite timepieces, figurines, and collectibles. Buying from L.A. Roberts Jewelers means that you've made the decision to do business with people who've excelled in the industry for more than 100 years. They'll be here tomorrow when you need them, and if you need your jewelry or your watch repaired, they'll do that too. L.A. Roberts in downtown Martinsburg. Old World Jewelers for a new age.
The Palace Lounge in Martinsburg is the place to be. Join us every night to relax and enjoy football or basketball games featuring either the Martinsburg Bulldogs, Shepherd University Rams, or West Virginia Mountaineers. We will have steak night every Wednesday, shrimp nights every Thursday, and now taco and margarita nights every Tuesday. You can find us on Facebook or call 304-267-7520. The Palace Lounge is located at 1350 Edwin Miller Boulevard in Martinsburg.
How can you live more fully during a serious illness? Dottie tells how Hospice of the Panhandle helped her family.
My brother Speedy became the base commander after he had been in the Air Guard for a few years and then became a general. He was the type of guy that would take people under his wing. Speedy developed a form of brain cancer, and he ended up coming to Hospice of the Panhandle, and he wanted to be around his friends, and Hospice of the Panhandle made that possible. He had over 200 visitors when he was here, and one of Speedy's last wishes was to fly over the Shenandoah Valley, and Hospice of the Panhandle helped me make that possible for him. I don't think there was one person that didn't bend over backwards to make sure that my brother was comfortable, and they would ask me, "How are you doing?" Hospice of the Panhandle, thank you so much for treating us like family.
Live on with expert care from Hospice of the Panhandle. Learn more at hospiceotp.org or call 304-264-0406.
The WVU Heart and Vascular Institute is pleased to announce that thoracic surgery with Dr. Shalini Reddy is now available in Martinsburg at WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center. Dr. Reddy has practiced thoracic surgery in the region for over 8 years and offers robotic laparoscopic surgeries for the lungs, esophagus, and more. For more information about thoracic surgery in Martinsburg, check us out online at mywvuheart.com.
Mommy, where does flavor come from?
Well, when people love food, they cook it on a Traeger grill. Meat, corn, even pie. And then the Traeger does the rest, which brings everyone to celebrate this beautiful thing that they've created. Because when you share delicious food with your friends, that's the flavor of life.
Shop now and save at Orsini's today.
We are brought to you in part by Orsini's Home Store, not just an appliance store any longer, at 360 Hack, Wilson Way, Martinsburg, by the Skinner Accident and Injury Attorneys at SkinnerWins.com. Century 21 Modern Realty Zone, Flair DeMarco and Company there. We are joined in studio by the Admiral Bill Stubblefield, two-star.
Good morning, Rob.
New York Times bestselling author John Gilstrap.
Hi there.
A senior member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
By a veteran, John Doyle.
Thank you for
served
the
his country in Vietnam.
Thank you for the tuba introduction there.
Mr. Joseph Joey Torts ready by telephone. Joseph.
Buongiorno.
Gentani. We have Butch Patrick's birthday today. Butch Patrick, he was little Eddie Munster in 1953, who was born this day. This is something I didn't know until recently. He was also, Joe, do you remember those crazy kid shows when we were little? Lidsville, Charles Nelson Riley was in it?
Yeah.
With the hats, it was all about hats. Butch Patrick was Mark. He was the kid that fell into the hat in that show. I didn't even know he was that kid. That was little Eddie Munster, grown up to be the dude in Lidsville. That was the era of LSD and dropping acid, and Sid and Morty Croft must have capitalized on it because H.R. Puff and stuff in Lidsville were really, speaking of weird, they were weird Saturday morning things, whatever that was. We are doing some fact-checking with Chillin' Dylan Bishop. What do you got, Dill?
When I'm given an assignment, I do my best for Rob. So we still have to do the legwork on the validity behind this, but if you'll turn your attention to the TV side, who knows where this possibly could have come from, but I was able to find something.
Holy mackerel.
Bill's mugshot from running over a turtle.
What a horrible picture. Even with
Durham County Sheriff's Office. See that, Bill?
What year was that?
That was just
1938. Hey, Dylan, I've been giving you a lot of good press, but it was part of you need to be more selective in what you are, or less selective.
I was pretty selective when it came to the picture of you that I've used.
I think I saw that kid hiding out by a tot lot with a trench coat on. I saw that guy right there. That's where that came from. Issue number 4, and with that, Mr. John Doyle.
Well, on August 27th, as you mentioned earlier, Rob, the Greenbrier Hotel goes on the auction block. That was announced yesterday. It is owned, of course, by the Honorable Jim Justice. And for the last year or so, when confronted by the media with all of his court judgments and penalties and all this kind of stuff and complaints by people that he owes money to that he won't pay up, his standard refrain has been, "Oh, Big Jim's gonna be fine." Well, I think the announcement yesterday indicates that he is not fine. I don't know how many creditors he has or how much he owes. I don't know what the Greenbrier is going to go for or who's going to buy it. I do hope that the person who buys it is someone who wants to keep it as the pièce de résistance in tourism that it is. But at any rate, the question is, however much money he gets from the sale of the Greenbrier, will that, how much of a dent will that make in all the money he owes to all the people to whom he owes it? So that's the question for the group. And I realize a lot of this is going to be speculation. So let's hear some speculation, folks.
And I'll kind of add on to John's point by tagging that with, in general, overall, what does this mean for the state of West Virginia and for Justice's Senate race, too, Michael Carl?
Well, I agree with the points you're raising. I'm because it's one more, but a really embarrassing example of Justice's complete irresponsibility as a business person, as a leader, but unfortunately I don't. And I'm not going to vote for his Democratic opponent. I'm just going to vote no for U.S. Senate. But as a practical matter, I don't think there's any way that he's going to lose that race. but it is further embarrassment to the whole state of what he's caused.
Bill?
Yeah, as Donald Trump, Jim Justice used his business skills as part of his persona, as part of his campaign. This implies, and I'm making a big jump of implication here, assumption, that he has been living under fraud for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, that his business was not as good as what he advertised it should be. Will that have an impact? And the real question now is not so much of what it does to his business side, but the political side, as Rob's pointed out. Will it have any implication at all? I think if it had come out earlier, and if we were in less of a red state, I think it would have a major impact upon his elections. But the fact we're in such a heavily red state, and the fact that Glenn Elliott is not well known outside of Weirton, you'll probably have very little impact.
Mr. Gilstrap.
I don't think it'll have an impact on the political race. This is news that I heard yesterday. Research on this is very new. He's claiming it's a political stunt. Of course, that's what he's going to say that it is. Apparently, the rules, according to him, as reported in Metro News, the rules changed at the last minute. They called his loan. The loan was sold to J.P. Morgan, and on the first day, they called it, and completely blindsided by it. I have no idea if this is true. That's what they're reporting. So I don't know. Rich guys probably have rich friends who will bail him out. I would be shocked if this actually goes to auction and he loses the Greenbrier. If he does, it's a huge humiliation for him. And if whoever buys it, I hope whoever buys it will be somebody named Hilton or Marriott, or somebody that will actually keep it in operation as a hotel. Whoever buys it will keep it in operation as a hotel, because it is a historic landmark, and it's a beautiful place.
Let me just ask the question, since John brought up the point that rich guys have rich friends. Mike, Bill, John, how well do you guys know each other?
Yeah, I'm going to go down and I'll buy it for $5,000.
If I win the Mega Millions tonight, I'll buy it.
Thank you. That's mighty big of you.
That'll cover the electric bill.
Is the electric still on? Yeah. Let's go to Mr. Ferretti.
A couple thoughts. The prospect of Jim Justice going to represent
Joe, your phone fritzed, so I don't know where
I'm sorry.
Where you went. There you are.
Just a couple thoughts. The thought of Jim Justice going to the U.S. Senate to represent West Virginia concerns me. We have a history in West Virginia of having very capable senators, very capable representatives in that body. And I go back to Jennings Randolph and Jay Rockefeller and Byrd, and certainly the most recent representatives we have, which is Charlie Moore Capito and Joe Manchin. They have all acquitted themselves very well on the national stage representing West Virginia interests. I don't think Jim Justice is capable of doing that, and I fear what we're going to get going forward. Secondly, and Mike Carl knows this better than anybody, John was right to raise this issue, because I think it's personally embarrassing, and it should be, for Jim Justice. But the fact that company, the Greenbrier, owes the state of West Virginia over $2 million in sales tax revenue is astounding to me. Because Mike Carl, I'm sure you'll back me up on this. When a business gets sales tax revenue, they keep that apart from all other money in that business, and they remit it to the state of West Virginia as a matter of course. His company didn't do that. They have $2 million of West Virginians' money somewhere that they owe to the state. And the fact that remains and is not a big issue is just amazing to me.
Comes back to you, John Doyle.
Well, I didn't know about that, Joe. That's illegal. I mean, it is not just practice to keep it separate. It is required by the law that you keep sales tax receipts separate and remit them at least quarterly to the state. In terms of the political impact, I don't think this in and of itself will cause Jim Justice to lose the election. But if this is the tip of the iceberg, if this is just the beginning of a number of events like this, and these things happen before the 1st of October, I think it theoretically could have. It certainly, had it happened a year ago, I think might have enabled Alex Mooney to win that primary against Jim Justice. So he kind of escaped the primary because this came too late. Again, it all depends on what comes next. And after the Greenbrier, what property does Jim Justice have that has real value? All of his coal companies are leveraged to the hilt. I think he's got a horse farm or two with some fairly expensive thoroughbreds, but that doesn't come anywhere near matching the Greenbrier. So I just don't know. Thank you all.
All right, issue number 5. And for issue number 5, we're going to go to Mike Carl in just a second. I've asked Joe Ferretti to call back and reestablish his cell signal. So, Dylan, that line you see flashing is actually Mr. Ferretti, as his line was kind of buzzing a little bit there, and we needed to reestablish that. So, Joe, we have you back now?
Yeah, I'm back.
Excellent. You sound great, as always. Mr. Carl, issue number 5.
Okay. Mine is, how much will the stock market drop if Kamala Harris is elected president? And I want to preface the discussion and the answers with a couple thoughts. I mean, right now the stock market is plummeting because of issues in the technology industry internationally and everything else. But I think the answer ultimately will depend on what the latest polls show, the pre-election polls show, whether there's any, threat to Trump's election. And if the more there is, then the more the market will go down before the actual election. But if the polls show that Trump, is ahead in the key states and the battleground states, and then she wins the election, I think the stock market will plummet more than it has maybe in my lifetime.
The Dow this morning is down 1.1%, S&P off about 1.5%, NASDAQ stocks are down about 2.25%. Internationally, the story was similar today. The Nikkei dropped nearly 6% today. European markets finished down across the board at least 1%. Most of them were down by more than 2%. So it's not a great day for stocks around the world, not just in the United States. But Mr. Carl's premise standing, Mr. Stubblefield, what do you think the results of a Harris election would be?
Yeah, when Biden stepped down and Harris moved forward, the stock market did not react negatively. In fact, it went up a little bit, not much, but a little bit. So, Mike, if we can project this, and I have no reason to think that this would not be the trend after the November election.
Mr. Gilstrap?
The emotional reaction, I don't know what that's going to be. If you remember election night 2016, the stocks dropped precipitously, only to recover by dawn. I think that the next 4 years we're going to see bad stock performance, irrespective of who's president, just because the fundamentals I think are bad. We've talked about this on Mondays for a long time. There's a lot of debt. There's a lot of just the economy itself. While the markets are strong, I don't have a lot of faith in the fundamentals of the economy. So I think that we're going to see a downfall. I will have a hard time blaming that on Kamala Harris. I have no problem blaming that on Joe Biden.
Mr. Doyle?
The stock market goes up, the stock market goes down. It goes up, it goes down. I have no idea. I will agree, I think, with John Gilstrap, with what I think he said, or at least alluded to. We've got to get a handle on the debt. It is going to be absolutely incumbent on the next administration, whether it's Harris or Trump, to get a handle on the debt. And neither one of them is going to say a word about it between now and the election.
Mr. Ferretti?
Well, I think in the short term, the market is going to go down some. I think there's going to be a correction because it's run up so fast for so long. I think everybody who has a 401k can see that. But look, this is what the Fed wanted. right? This is why we still have high interest rates. They needed to tap the brakes on the economy to get inflation under control. And the question was whether it was going to be a hard landing, which is a recession, or not. Up until this point in time, it seemed like they had threaded the needle very well, but now there's some reporting out that businesses are slowing, unemployment filings are going up, so we could be hitting that rough patch that we expected to at some point with the Fed's action. And that's why the Fed's looking at potentially relaxing the rates in September. Phil McCoy, I'm sure will speak to this next week, Rob, but I think bottom line is this is pretty much what was anticipated with the Fed action. Long term, to answer Mike Carl's question about the impact of Harris administration on the stock market, I would look at data, which I think proves me right on this point, which is that the stock market has performed better under Democratic administrations than it has under Republican. So if the history is any guide, I wouldn't be too fearful.
What really scares me about all of this is the luxury spending is going really strong. Vacations are strong, cruise lines are strong, restaurants are doing really well, but credit card debt is through the roof. And the statistic, we had a guy on the show, and I've had nightmares about this ever since. Only 30% of Americans can actually put their hands on $1,000 cash. And I don't mean like folding money. In disposable assets, only 30% of Americans have $1,000 in disposable income.
And John, I remember those statistics just a different from you. I heard 70% could not put on a
well, 30% can, 70% cannot.
That's exactly right. Yes, 70% cannot.
And those two together, the fact that we have high credit card debt, we have a lot of people spending money. That means they're spending money on things they can't afford, and that also means we don't have the spending or the savings background. I just see bad things. You put that in with the national debt, I think bad things are coming, and it doesn't matter who's in the White House.
Mark Carl comes back to you.
Well, I'd be interested in a specific citation of that the market's done better under Democrats than Republicans, because it fluctuates wildly all the time, and but I think the Fed will start to drop the rates in September. I think the market will climb, particularly if the polls show Trump, with a somewhat of a lead in the polls. But I'm telling you, if she gets elected, the stock market will plummet, and I'm going to make sure my stop loss orders are in place.
What Joe pointed out, the research that I've done on that backs what Joe said, that oddly and interestingly enough, markets have done better under Democratic presidents. However, the best that a market does is when the leadership is split. Yes. So if there's one party rule, you would think it would be more of an influencer on the market. But if you have split party rule, that's when you get
let's spin this. Let's be politicians. Let's spin this. The reason that the Democratic does better, it's because the Republican administration before them set it up. So now they're living out.
Of course.
Thank you. I should have said that myself.
Yeah, you should have, Mike. Gee whiz.
Going back to your point, Rob, about doing better under split, that's true because more bills are passed under split than if you have the legislators and the president of the same party.
See, but now the opposite, however, Bill, is what was cited in the article, that when power is split, less gets done. Yeah. So therefore, the government can get involved in less things.
No, statistically, I think, I cannot look at the last 10 years, 15 years, but prior to that, more bills were passed when they're split.
That's totally counterintuitive.
I know, yeah, but
it's a fact.
But it's a fact. It's a fact, Mike.
Where's my fact checker? Where's my fact checker?
Yeah, cite me something that I can rely on.
Yeah. Dylan, we need distraction. Get another mugshot of Stubblefield up there.
Yeah, and also, Bill, you're right, and I do think it's going to be split in this sense. I think the Republicans will take the Senate, at least by one vote, given the electoral map over the country. And I think the Democrats are going to take the House back. So whoever is president, I think the Congress is going to be split. And so, if you're right, Mike's wrong.
But if Mike's wrong, then Bill's right.
Yes.
And we can all look forward to more congressional investigation.
That's
Great.
a fact check, like they said in Stripes. Hey, we have 2 minutes left, and in going through everybody's issues, the one I wanted to bring up here was John Gilstrap's number 3. Are we paying enough attention to the security breakdown at the Butler rally? 2 minutes, John. What do you have on that?
I think that this is a chasm that is deep and wide. That everybody, I think it's a well-known secret that nobody wants to come out with, that there's a huge breakdown in the Secret Service. It's at the very top, and people are hesitant to talk about it because we don't want our enemies to know how broken down the system is. We don't have nearly enough agents on presidential detail. They're far too distracted by other things that they're doing, other investigations that they're doing, and there has to be some serious house cleaning that I don't know that they're willing to do.
John, 30 seconds.
John Gilstrap, I agree with you that there's a serious problem at the top of the Secret Service. I don't agree that we're not paying enough attention. I haven't read my Washington Post yet today, but ever since Butler, I've read at least one story in the Washington Post about the problems with the Secret Service.
15 seconds, Mike Carl.
It's federal government bureaucracy, and it just spread to the important agency.
15 seconds, Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, I think it comes back to funding to a large degree. If memory serves, I think this Secret Service has had their funding reduced.
15 seconds, Joe Ferretti.
Yes, the Secret Service protects a lot more people than they used to, so they need to expand their roles in terms of employment.
Gentlemen, good job coming in under the guidelines that I presented for you, especially you, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, you get even less time for your final thoughts. That boils down to 8 seconds apiece. Get them ready. Joe, you'll lead off with final thoughts when we return following our final 2-minute break here.
C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. They furnished all.
Hi, Crescia Hornby here. Larry DeMarco, broker of Modern Realty Results, believes he has some of the best real estate agents in the Eastern Panhandle. Agents at Modern Realty Results have years of experience and knowledge of the local real estate market. Agents within the office work as a team to provide quality customer service. We strive to always ensure client satisfaction through handling every transaction with honesty and integrity, all while offering competitive rates. Modern Realty Results is veteran-owned and managed. Please call us at 262-4222, modernrealtyresults.com.
One of the questions lawyers get asked the most is, what is my case worth?
I'm Steven Skinner, and this is my brother Andrew with Skinner Accident and Injury Lawyers.
The truth is, it's very difficult for a lawyer to pinpoint a number because every case is different.
We get to know each situation and we'll give you an idea of what your case is worth and why.
The sooner we get involved, the better we can do getting you the compensation you deserve.
Google Skinner Lawyers or go to skinnerwins.com. We'll treat you like family.
If you're going to hit like trash all day, I tell you what, I got a real chance here. Oh, hey, speaking of, I was coming down the road the other day back from McIntosh Valley, and I saw a billboard with these crazy deals that Panhandle Dumpsters have.
True. Hey, come on.
Oh, and did you know that if you sign up, you get your first month free? Dude, sorry, man. But I just wish somebody would have told me about these crazy deals that Panhandle Dumpsters has.
Drew, how many times have I told you to sign up for Panhandle Dumpsters? They give away discounts for first responders, veterans, and seniors. If you pay for a whole year, you get the 13th month free. Now shut up and watch me hit this drive.
Signing up with Panhandle is like a hole-in-one every day.
Final thoughts are brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers in downtown Martinsburg. 8 seconds, Joe, for ready, go.
I say this sincerely. I wish Kevin Pittsnall luck with North Middle.
John Gilstrap.
Tomorrow I'll be in Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookstore launching Zero Sum at a conference called Murder As You Like It.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Tune in on Monday to meet the newest member of our judicial system.
Mr. Michael Carl.
Cardinals blew a 9th inning lead, but they're going to sweep the Cubs.
Go Cards. Mr. Doyle.
Nationals traded away any chance they got of winning this year. I hope they make the playoffs next year.
My final thought is I find myself being frightened to death of John Gilstrap from that elevated stance that he has
Get used to
taken.
it, buddy.
I feel like I'm under his thumb now. Dave Ramsey Show's next. This is Talk Radio, WRI Martinsburg and TV10. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again in 70 short hours.